I was the second choice. Now it's your turn to live with the consequences.
The phone buzzed at 2:30 a.m. like an angry wasp against the nightstand. Beth's phone, again. I'd been lying there for 20 minutes, pretending to sleep while my wife shifted restlessly beside me. The blue glow from her screen had been lighting up our bedroom ceiling every few minutes like some twisted lighthouse beacon, guiding ships to wreck on the rocks of betrayal. "Jimmy?" Beth whispered, thinking I was asleep. "Jimmy, you awake?" I kept my breathing steady, even though my heart was hammering against my ribs like it was trying to break free. Another buzz, another flash of light. I heard her slip out of bed, bare feet padding across the hardwood floor toward the kitchen. That's when I knew. You don't sneak out to read innocent messages. You don't whisper check your phone at 2:30 in the morning unless someone's sending you things your husband shouldn't see. After 12 years of marriage, I knew Beth's habits better than she knew them herself. I gave her 30 seconds, then followed. She was standing by the kitchen island, phone clutched in both hands, reading something that made her face glow pale blue in the darkness. Her dark hair fell across her shoulders, and for a moment she looked like the woman I'd fallen in love with 15 years ago, before the disappointment set in, before she started looking at me like I was a consolation prize. "Midnight reading session?" I asked, flicking on the light. Beth jumped so hard she nearly dropped the phone. "Jesus, Jimmy, you scared me." "Sorry, couldn't sleep either." I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Who's texting you at this hour? Emergency at the salon?" The salon. Beth's little kingdom where she cut hair and collected gossip like some women collect vintage jewelry. She'd bought it with money from my electrical contracting business, Parrish & Sons Electric. Though there was only one son now, me. My father had passed 3 years ago, leaving me to run the company he'd built from nothing. "It's nothing," she said, but her thumb was already swiping, trying to close whatever she'd been reading. Just Maya being dramatic about her boyfriend again. Maya, Beth's best friend since high school, enabler extraordinaire, and professional stirrer of pots. If Maya was involved, this was going to get messy. "Maya texts you at 2:30 a.m. about boyfriend drama. You know how she is when she's been drinking." I knew how Maya was, all right. I also knew that Beth was lying through her perfectly whitened teeth. Her tell was always the same. She'd touch her collarbone when she wasn't being truthful. Her fingers were there now, playing with the little gold necklace I'd given her for our 10th anniversary. "Let me see." "What?" "The phone. Let me see what Maya's so worked up about." Beth's grip tightened on the device. "Jimmy, don't be ridiculous. It's girl talk. You wouldn't be interested. Try me." We stared at each other across the kitchen island. The same island where we'd shared coffee every morning for the past 8 years. Where we'd planned vacations and argued about money and talked about maybe having kids someday. Before Beth decided that she wanted more from life. Before she started staying late at the salon. Before she started getting mysterious phone calls. "Beth." My voice was quieter now, but there was steel in it. "Give me the phone." "No." The word hung between us like a blade. In 12 years of marriage, Beth had never flat out refused me anything. We'd argued, sure. We'd had our share of fights, but she'd never looked me in the eye and said no with such finality. That's when I knew for certain. "Is it Alex?" The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. Bingo, Alex, my older brother, the golden boy. The one who got the full ride to college while I stayed home to help Dad with the business. The one who became a successful real estate developer while I got my hands dirty running electrical jobs. The one who never married because, according to him, he was too focused on building his empire. The one who'd always gotten everything he wanted. "Jimmy, I can explain." "Can you?" I stepped closer and she backed against the refrigerator. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks pretty simple. My brother is texting my wife at 2:30 in the morning, and she's sneaking around to read his messages. It's not what you think. What do I think, Beth?" She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, like a fish gasping for air. "You think we're having an affair. Are you?" The question sat there between us, heavy and sharp. Beth's eyes filled with tears. The same tears that had gotten her out of trouble since we were teenagers. The same tears that made me feel like a monster for questioning her. Not this time. "Answer me, Beth. Are you sleeping with my brother?" "Yes." The word came out as a whisper, but it might as well have been a sharp crack. "But Jimmy, you have to understand." "Understand what?" My voice cracked like I was 16 again, watching Alex get picked first for everything while I stood on the sidelines. Help me understand how my wife is screwing my brother behind my back. It's not like that. Then what's it like? Enlighten me. Beth wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, smearing mascara across her cheek. You want the truth? Fine. I married you because I couldn't marry Alex. The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually staggered backward, grabbing the counter for support. What did you say? I was in love with Alex first, Jimmy. I was always in love with Alex. But he didn't want to settle down, and you were there, and you were sweet. And you loved me, and I thought maybe I could learn to love you the same way. Each word was a nail in the coffin of our marriage. 12 years. 12 years of thinking I'd won the lottery when Beth Morrison agreed to go out with me. 12 years of feeling grateful that somehow, miraculously, the prettiest girl in town had chosen me over all the other guys chasing her. 12 years of being someone's second choice. So what changed? I asked, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. Why now? Alex called me 6 months ago, said he'd made a mistake, said he'd always regretted not fighting for me. She was crying harder now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no urge to comfort her. Just a cold, spreading numbness. We tried to stay away from each other, Jimmy. We really did, but we couldn't. 6 months, I did the math. The same time you started working late. The same time you stopped wanting to have love with me. The same time you started picking fights about money and the house and how I never take you anywhere nice. She nodded miserably. Where do you meet him? Jimmy. Where, Beth? His condo, sometimes the office after hours, once at that motel on Route 9. My office. They'd been using my own office, the one my father built, the one with his picture still hanging on the wall. The violation of it made my stomach turn. I walked into the counter, picked up her phone. She didn't try to stop me this time. The messages were all there, months of them. Alex telling her how beautiful she was, how he'd never stopped thinking about her. Beth telling him how unhappy she was, how she felt trapped in a life that was too small for her. Plans to meet, explicit photos I definitely didn't want to see. And then the most recent exchange. Alex, can't wait to see you tomorrow. Jimmy working late again? Beth. Until 8. We'll have the whole afternoon. Alex, perfect. I have something special planned. Something that'll help you forget all about your husband. Beth, I love you. Alex, love you too, baby. Always have. I set the phone down very carefully. Pack a bag, I said. What? Pack a bag. You're leaving. Tonight. Jimmy, please. We can work this out. I can end it with Alex. We can go to counseling. Beth. I looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time in 12 years, I saw her clearly. Not the fantasy I'd been in love with, but the real woman. Selfish, manipulative, weak. You just told me you married me because you couldn't have the man you really wanted. You've been lying to me for 6 months. You've been screwing my brother in my office, and now you want to work it out? I made a mistake. No. You made a choice. You chose Alex. So go be with Alex. I walked to the closet, pulled out her suitcase, and started throwing clothes into it. Beth followed me, still crying, still pleading. Where am I supposed to go? I don't care. Alex's place, Maya's, a hotel. Not my problem anymore. This is my house too. Actually, it's not. I kept packing, not looking at her. The deed's in my name. Bought it with money from my business. Your name's not on anything that matters, Beth. I made sure of that after Dad died. Wanted to protect the assets. The look of shock on her face was almost worth the pain in my chest. You can't just throw me out. Watch me. I zipped up the suitcase, carried it to the front door, and tossed it onto the lawn. Then I came back for Beth. Get out. Jimmy, get out of my house. She grabbed her purse and her phone, shot me one last desperate look, and walked out into the night. I locked the door behind her and turned off the porch light. Then I sat down at my kitchen table and called Alex. He answered on the third ring, voice thick with sleep. Jimmy, what's wrong? It's 3 a.m. Just wanted to let you know that Beth's available now, permanently. Silence. Jimmy, what are you talking about? I know, Alex. I know everything. About the affair, about how she married me because she couldn't have you, about how you two have been using my office like your personal love nest. More silence. Then, look, I can explain. Nothing to explain. You won. Congratulations. You finally got something of mine. It wasn't like that. Sure it was. It was always like that. You taking whatever you wanted and me getting your leftovers. Well, enjoy her. But understand something, big brother. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. I hung up and sat in the dark kitchen, staring at the space where my wife had been standing 20 minutes earlier. Funny thing about hitting rock bottom. It gives you a solid foundation to build your revenge on. My phone was buzzing when I woke up at 6 a.m. Joan Martinez, my office manager for the past 10 years, never called this early unless something was seriously wrong. Jimmy, you need to get down here, now. I was already pulling on my work clothes. What's going on? Alex's car is in the parking lot. Has been all night, according to Pete. Pete was our security guard. Worked the overnight shift at the industrial complex where Parrish & Sons had its offices. And there's more. You're not going to like it. 20 minutes later, I was standing in the parking lot behind my building, staring at Alex's silver BMW. Joan stood beside me, arms crossed, her usually immaculate appearance slightly disheveled. At 55, Joan had seen everything in her decades of running offices for small businesses. Nothing rattled her. She looked rattled now. Pete says the car's been here since about midnight. Saw lights in your office around 12:30, figured you were working late. Didn't think anything of it until he saw the BMW this morning and remembered you drive the truck. I felt sick. They were here last night, in my office. Gets worse. Joan handed me her tablet. Check your email. The message was from our security company, sent at 12:47 a.m. Motion detected in Building 3, Office 2A. My office. The email included a short video clip from the hallway camera. I watched Alex and Beth walk down the corridor, his hand on her lower back, both of them laughing about something. They disappeared into my office. The timestamp showed them leaving 43 minutes later. Beth's hair messed up. Alex's shirt untucked. Jesus. There's more. Joan swiped to another email. This came in around 1:15. Another motion alert, this time from the camera in the warehouse. The video showed Alex and Beth in the break room, her sitting on the table where my employees ate their lunch, him standing between her legs, kissing her neck. I closed the tablet before I could see more. How long have you known? Joan asked quietly. Found out last night. Kicked her out. Joan nodded like she'd been expecting this. Figured something was up. She's been calling here a lot the past few months, always wanting to know when you'd be back if you were working late. And Alex has been coming around more often. Why didn't you tell me? Tell you what? That your wife was calling to check on your schedule? That your brother was visiting more often? Didn't seem like my business, she paused. But I did notice some things. Like what? Like how the petty cash has been coming up short. Nothing major, 20 or 30 bucks at a time. And someone's been using the company credit card for gas purchases on weekends. Figured it was you. It wasn't me. I always used my personal card for business expenses. Kept everything separate and clean for tax purposes. Show me. We went inside, Joan pulling up the credit card statements on her computer. There it was. Gas purchases on Saturday afternoons, always at the station near Alex's condo. Always right around the time Beth would tell me she was working late at the salon. Son of a witch has been using my credit card to fill up his tank for his affair with my wife. Want me to call the police? I thought about it. $30 here, $50 there. It would be hard to prove Alex was the one using the card, and even if we could, it was barely a misdemeanor. Not worth the hassle, but it was worth something else. No, but print out all the statements, every transaction. I want dates, times, amounts. Joan's fingers flew over the keyboard. What are you thinking? I'm thinking my brother's about to learn that stealing from family has consequences. The door chimed, and Big Dave Morrison walked in. Dave was my warehouse foreman, a mountain of a man who'd played defensive line for the local high school back in the day. He was also Beth's cousin, though they'd never been close. Morning, boss, Joan. He stopped when he saw our faces. What's wrong? Somebody die? My marriage, I said. Beth's been cheating on me with Alex. Dave's face went through several expressions: surprise, anger, disgust. Heck, Jimmy. I'm sorry. I knew Beth could be difficult, but cheating with your own brother? Gets better. They've been using the office, and Alex has been stealing from petty cash and using the company credit card. Now Dave looked ready to commit homicide. Want me to have a talk with him? No, nothing physical. I've got a better plan. The door chimed again, and Maya Gonzalez walked in. Beth's best friend, partner in crime, and general pain in my neck. Maya was one of those women who thrived on drama, who could turn a hangnail into a soap opera storyline. She was also fiercely loyal to Beth, which meant she was here to cause trouble. "Jimmy," she said, like we were old friends instead of people who barely tolerated each other. "I heard about last night. Beth is devastated. Absolutely devastated. Good morning to you too, Maya. She's staying at my place, so, crying her eyes out. She made a mistake, Jimmy, a terrible mistake. But that doesn't mean you have to throw away 12 years of marriage." Joan and Dave exchanged looks. This was about to get interesting. A mistake? I leaned back in my chair. Which part was the mistake? The 6 months of lying? The affair with my brother? Or marrying me in the first place because she couldn't have him? Maya's perfectly made-up face faltered for a second. She told you that? She told me a lot of things, like how they've been meeting at his condo, and at that motel on Route 9, and right here in my office, on the desk where I do my paperwork every day. Jimmy, you're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference. Maya straightened her shoulders, going into battle mode. Well, maybe if you'd been a better husband, she wouldn't have needed to find comfort elsewhere. The room went dead quiet. Even the hum of the air conditioning seemed to stop. Dave took a step forward. Maya, you might want to think real careful about your next words. It's okay, Dave. I stood up slowly. Maya's just being Maya, loyal to her friend, no matter what her friend did. I respect that. But here's the thing, Maya. Beth made her choice. She chose Alex, so she can go be with Alex. She doesn't want Alex. She wants to come home. She wants to fix things with you. No, she doesn't. She wants to have her cake and eat it too. She wants the security of being married to me and the excitement of screwing my brother. Well, she can't have both. Maya's face flushed red. You're going to regret this, Jimmy. Beth is the best thing that ever happened to you, and you're throwing her away over one little mistake. One little mistake? Joan finally spoke up. Honey, your friend has been screwing around for 6 months. That's not a mistake. That's a lifestyle choice. Stay out of this, Joan. This is between family. Actually, Dave said, his voice rumbling like distant thunder, Beth's my cousin, and what she did was wrong, dead wrong. Jimmy's got every right to kick her to the curb. Maya looked shocked. She'd probably expected Dave to take Beth's side, family loyalty and all that. Dave, you don't understand. I understand plenty. I understand that Beth took vows. I understand that she broke them. And I understand that she's got you running around town trying to clean up her mess. Dave crossed his arms. Maybe you should tell your friend to grow up and face the consequences of her actions. Maya turned back to me, desperation creeping into her voice. Jimmy, please, just talk to her. Give her a chance to explain. She explained plenty last night. Told me all about how she settled for me, how she was always in love with Alex, how I was just the consolation prize. I sat back down, picked up some paperwork. Conversation's over, Maya. Beth made her bed. Now she can lie in it. This isn't over, Maya said, her voice shaking with anger. You're right, it's not. I looked up at her, smiled without any warmth. It's just getting started. After Maya left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows, Joan and Dave looked at me with something like admiration. Wow, boss, Dave said. Remind me never to get on your bad side. You planning on screwing my wife? Heck no. She's not my type anyway. I like women with integrity. Joan was still staring at the door. Maya's going to cause problems. She's got a big mouth and no sense. This'll be all over town by noon. Good, I said. Let everyone know exactly what Beth and Alex did. Let them explain to their friends and neighbors why they blew up a marriage. You sure about this? Joan asked. Once word gets out, there's no taking it back. This town loves its gossip. I thought about the video footage of my wife and brother in my office, about the months of lies, about being told I was someone's second choice after 12 years of marriage. I'm sure. In fact, I think it's time everyone knew exactly what kind of people Beth and Alex really are. Joan smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. I'll make some calls. By tonight, everyone from the mayor to the grocery store clerk will know the whole story. And I'll spread the word at The Wire, Dave added. The Wire was the local bar, where most of the blue-collar guys hung out after work. Alex won't be able to show his face there for months. I felt something I hadn't felt since last night. A sense of purpose, a plan forming. Actually, let's make sure Alex does show his face. I've got some things I'd like to say to him in front of witnesses. Dave grinned. Now you're talking my language. By 5 o'clock, the whole town was buzzing. Joan had made good on her promise, and the gossip network had done the rest. My phone had been ringing all day, some people offering sympathy, others fishing for details, a few brave souls suggesting I should work things out with Beth. I ignored most of the calls, but when my lawyer, Patricia Webb, called at 4:30, I picked up immediately. Jimmy, I heard. I'm sorry. Thanks, Pat. I need to see you soon. I figured, can you come by tomorrow morning? We need to talk about protecting your assets, the business, everything. What about tonight? I'm buying you dinner if you can meet me at the Wire around 7. Pat laughed. You want to have a legal consultation at a bar? I want to have a legal consultation where everyone can see us having a legal consultation. Word is, Alex might show up tonight. Ah, you want witnesses to see you getting proper legal advice before you do anything inadvisable. You always were the smartest lawyer in town. I'll see you at 7. And Jimmy, don't do anything stupid before I get there. The Wire was packed when I arrived, which was exactly what I'd hoped for. Word had definitely gotten around. I could feel the stares, hear the whispered conversations that stopped when I passed. Some people looked sympathetic. Others looked hungry for drama. I took a seat at the bar, ordered a beer, and waited. Pat arrived first, her gray hair pulled back in its usual no-nonsense bun, briefcase in hand. At 62, she'd been practicing law in this town longer than anyone else, had seen every kind of domestic mess imaginable. So, she said, sliding onto the bar stool next to me, tell me everything. I gave her the short version, the affair, the confrontation, Beth moving out. Pat took notes on a legal pad, asked pointed questions about assets, debts, the business structure. Good news is, the business is protected. Your father set it up as a sole proprietorship with you as the sole owner. Beth has no claim to it. The house is in your name only. Most of your assets are separate. What about alimony? Possible, but unlikely given the adultery. New Hampshire isn't a no-fault state. Her affair, especially with your brother, will work in your favor. We were deep in conversation about filing procedures when Alex walked in. The bar didn't exactly go quiet, but there was definitely a shift in the atmosphere. Conversations became more hushed. People turned to watch. Alex seemed to sense it too. His usual confident swagger was replaced by something more cautious. He spotted me at the bar, hesitated, then walked over. Jimmy, we need to talk. Do we? I didn't turn around, just kept looking at Pat's notes. I think you said everything you needed to say last night. Or rather, you've been saying it for the past 6 months. Look, I know you're angry. Angry? Now I did turn around. Alex, angry doesn't begin to cover it. I'm devastated. I'm humiliated. I'm betrayed by the 2 people I trusted most in the world. But angry? That's just the tip of the iceberg. Alex glanced around, suddenly aware that half the bar was listening to our conversation. Can we do this somewhere private? Why? You didn't seem to care about privacy when you were screwing my wife in my office. A few people gasped. Someone's beer bottle clinked against the bar a little too loudly. Alex's face flushed red. We didn't mean for it to happen. Really? Because the credit card records suggest otherwise. 6 months of gas purchases near your condo. Always on the days Beth told me she was working late. I pulled out the printed statements Joan had given me, spread them on the bar. Funny how you needed gas every Saturday afternoon right around the time my wife was supposedly shampooing Mrs. Henderson's hair. Pat looked at the papers, raised an eyebrow. Unauthorized use of a company credit card. That's theft, Alex. I was going to pay it back. When? I asked. After you stole my wife? After you destroyed my marriage? Or after you convinced her to divorce me and take half of everything? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? I stood up and Alex took a step back. I wasn't a big man, but I was wiry and strong from years of physical work. More importantly, I was furious and had nothing left to lose. Help me understand, Alex. Help me understand how you justified screwing your brother's wife for 6 months. The bar was definitely quiet now. Even the jukebox seemed to have stopped playing. Beth came to me, Alex said, his voice getting defensive. She was unhappy. She said you 2 were having problems. What problems? The problem where I worked 60 hours a week to build a business? The problem where I bought her a salon so she could have her own career? The problem where I loved her completely and never looked at another woman? She said you'd grown apart, that you didn't talk anymore, that you treated her more like a roommate than a wife. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. She said that? Jimmy, she was miserable. Anyone could see it. Anyone except me, apparently. I sat back down, suddenly feeling exhausted. So you decided to help her out by sleeping with her. It wasn't supposed to happen. We were just talking, and then you saw an opportunity to take something else that belonged to me. Alex's face hardened. Not everything is about you, Jimmy. Maybe Beth genuinely has feelings for me. Maybe she always did. Oh, she told me about that, and how she was in love with you first, how she married me because she couldn't have you, how I was her second choice. The words hung in the air like smoke. I could see the shock on some faces, the pity on others. Alex looked like he wanted to crawl under the bar. She shouldn't have said that. Why not? It's the truth, isn't it? You were always the golden boy, the successful one, the one who got everything he wanted. And I was just the backup plan. Jimmy, well, congratulations, Alex. You finally got her. You won. I didn't want to win anything. You just what? Accidentally fell into bed with her? Accidentally used my office for your little trysts? Accidentally stole from my business to finance your affair? Alex looked around the bar, seeming to realize for the first time how this all looked, how he looked. I'll pay back the money. You bet you will, with interest. And I'll end it with Beth, if that's what you want. I stared at him. What I want? Alex, what I wanted was a faithful wife and a brother I could trust. What I wanted was to not find out that my entire marriage was a lie. What I wanted was to not be told I was someone's consolation prize. I finished my beer, set the bottle down carefully. But I don't get what I want. So now we play by different rules. What's that supposed to mean? I stood up, Pat gathering her papers beside me. It means I'm done being the nice guy, the understanding brother, the husband who works hard and keeps his mouth shut and pretends not to notice when his wife stops wearing her wedding ring. Alex glanced down at his hand. He wasn't wearing his class ring, the one he never took off. I'd bet anything it was sitting on Beth's nightstand at Maya's place. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow, I continued. I'm pressing charges for the credit card fraud, and I'm making sure everyone in this town knows exactly what kind of people you and Beth really are. I can't what? Tell the truth? Share the facts? Let people know that my wife of 12 years has been cheating on me with my brother for 6 months? People don't need to know our personal business. Our personal business, I laughed, and it wasn't a pleasant sound. Alex, the moment you decided to screw my wife, it stopped being personal. It became public. It became everyone's business. I started to walk away, then turned back. Oh, and Alex, stay away from my office. Stay away from my house. Stay away from my business. You're not welcome anywhere I am. You can't ban me from public places. No, but I can make sure everyone knows what you did. I can make sure that everywhere you go, people are whispering about how you stabbed your own brother in the back. I can make sure that every time you walk into a room, the conversation stops and people stare. I leaned closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. I can make your life very uncomfortable, Alex. And I'm just getting started. As Pat and I walked toward the door, I heard someone behind us say, "Can't believe he'd do that to his own brother." Another voice replied, "Always knew Alex Parrish was a snake. Just didn't know he was that kind of snake." Outside in the parking lot, Pat shook her head. That was either very smart or very stupid. Which do you think? Smart. You established the facts publicly, with witnesses. You showed restraint, no violence, no threats that could get you in legal trouble. And you made it clear that you're the wrong party here. Good, because this is just the beginning. Pat stopped walking. Jimmy, what are you planning? Nothing illegal. Nothing that'll get me sued or arrested, but Alex and Beth want to play games? They want to destroy my marriage and humiliate me in front of the whole town? I smiled, and I could feel that it wasn't a nice expression. They're about to learn that I'm much better at games than they thought. The next morning, I was in Pat's office at 8 a.m. sharp, signing divorce papers. By 9, I was at the courthouse filing them. By 10, I was at the bank, removing Beth's name from our joint checking account and canceling her credit cards. By 11, I was standing in the parking lot of Alex's real estate office, waiting for him to show up for work. Alex drove a BMW because he thought it made him look successful. What it actually made him look like was a guy trying too hard to impress people who didn't care. The car was his pride and joy. He washed it every weekend, parked it away from other cars, treated it like it was made of gold instead of German steel. Which is why the key scratches along both sides were going to hurt so much. I didn't do it, of course. That would be vandalism, and I wasn't stupid. But someone had done it. Sometime between last night at the wire and this morning. Someone had carved the words second choice into the paint on the driver's side and home wrecker on the passenger side. Alex pulled into the parking lot at 11:15, driving Beth's Honda. He saw me standing by his BMW, and the look on his face was priceless. Shock, rage, and just a hint of fear. "Did you do this?" he demanded, getting out of Beth's car. "Do what?" He gestured at his car. The scratches were deep, down to the metal. It was going to cost thousands to fix properly. "Don't play dumb, Jimmy. You did this." "Actually, I didn't. I've been at the courthouse all morning filing divorce papers, got witnesses and timestamps to prove it." I pulled out my phone, showed him the photos I'd taken when I arrived. Found it like this when I got here 20 minutes ago. Terrible shame. Someone must really not like you. Alex walked around the car, surveying the damage. "This is going to cost me $5,000 to fix. Probably more. BMW paint is expensive. Might want to check with your insurance company, see if vandalism is covered. You know perfectly well I can't file an insurance claim. They'll ask questions about who might have done it and why. That is a problem, isn't it? Hard to explain to the insurance adjuster that someone probably keyed your car because you're screwing your brother's wife." Alex's face was red with fury. "You're enjoying this." "A little bit, yeah. This is harassment." "No, this is consequences. You made choices, Alex. You chose to have an affair with my wife. You chose to use my office for your meetings. You chose to steal from my business. Now you get to live with the fallout. I told you I'd pay back the money, and I told you I'd press charges anyway. Theft is theft, whether you pay it back or not." Alex looked around the parking lot, probably wondering if anyone else had seen the damage. His office was in a small strip mall, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business. "What do you want, Jimmy?" "I want my wife back. I want my marriage back. I want the last 6 months of my life back." I shrugged, "But I can't have any of those things. So I'll settle for watching you and Beth face the consequences of what you did. We never meant to hurt you, but you did it anyway. For 6 months, you did it anyway." Alex ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I remembered from childhood. He always did that when he was stressed, when things weren't going his way. "Look, maybe we can work something out, man to man." "What kind of something?" "I'll pay for the divorce, all the legal fees, and I'll pay back the money I took with interest, 20% interest. In exchange for what? You stop this campaign of yours. Stop spreading our business all over town. Stop trying to ruin our reputations." I pretended to consider it. "That's an interesting offer, but I've got a counter proposal." "I'm listening." "You and Beth leave town. Pack up, move away, start over somewhere else. Somewhere far away from here." Alex stared at me. "You can't be serious. Dead serious. You want a life with Beth? Go have it. Somewhere else. I've got a business here. Clients, contracts. You should have thought of that before you decided to screw my wife." "I'm not leaving town because you're having a tantrum." "It's not a tantrum, Alex. It's a choice. You can leave voluntarily or you can stay and deal with the consequences of everyone knowing what you did." "What consequences? So people gossip for a few weeks? So what?" "People have short memories." I smiled. "Want to bet?" Before Alex could answer, a car pulled into the parking lot. Maya's red Toyota, with Beth in the passenger seat. They parked next to us, and both women got out. Beth looked terrible. Her eyes were red and swollen, her hair unwashed, her clothes wrinkled like she'd slept in them, which she probably had, on Maya's couch. "Jimmy, she said, her voice hoarse. "We need to talk." "No, we don't. Please, just 5 minutes." "I gave you 12 years, Beth. That's enough." Maya stepped forward, her face set in battle mode. "You can't just throw away a marriage like this. People make mistakes." "People make mistakes," I agreed. "But Beth made choices. She chose to lie to me for 6 months. She chose to sneak around with my brother. She chose to use my office for her affair. Those weren't mistakes, Maya. Those were decisions. She's sorry." "No, she's not. She's sorry she got caught. There's a difference." Beth started crying again. "Jimmy, I know I hurt you. I know I messed up. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work it out. Like you worked out your feelings for Alex in my office?" Beth flinched like I'd slapped her. "I saw the security footage, Beth. I saw you and Alex in the break room and on the table where my employees eat their lunch. I saw you leaving my office with your hair messed up and your shirt untucked. You want to work things out? Start by explaining how that was supposed to make our marriage stronger. It wasn't supposed to happen, but it did happen. Over and over again. For 6 months, it happened. Alex put his arm around Beth's shoulders and she leaned into him. The gesture was so natural, so automatic that it told me everything I needed to know about their relationship. See that? I pointed at them. That's what a couple looks like. That's what you and I used to look like before you decided you wanted him instead. Jimmy, Beth started. Save it. You made your choice. You chose Alex, so be with Alex. But don't expect me to make it easy for you. What's that supposed to mean? Maya demanded. It means I'm not going quietly. It means I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen. It means everyone in this town is going to know exactly what kind of people you are. You're being vindictive, Maya said. I'm being honest. There's a difference. I started to walk away, then turned back one more time. Oh, and Beth, I changed the locks on the house, and I canceled your credit cards, and I removed you from the bank accounts. You want money? Ask your boyfriend. Beth's face went white. You can't do that. That's my money, too. Actually, it's not. Pat Webb explained it all to me yesterday. Separate property, acquired before marriage or through inheritance. The business, the house, most of the assets, they're all mine. You're entitled to whatever you brought into the marriage, plus half of whatever we acquired together. What did we acquire together? I pretended to think about it. Well, there's your Honda, and some furniture, and about $3,000 in the joint savings account. I smiled. Congratulations, Beth. You traded a comfortable life for a used car and half a couch. As I walked away, I heard Maya say, Don't worry, honey. We'll figure something out. But I also heard the doubt in her voice. Maya was Beth's friend, but she wasn't stupid. She could do the math as well as anyone else. Beth had just traded a successful husband and a comfortable life for an affair with a man who couldn't even protect his own car from vandalism. And the whole town was watching it happen. 2 weeks later, the annual Founders Day Festival was in full swing. The whole town turned out for it every year. Families with kids, teenagers looking for something to do, older folks catching up on gossip. It was the kind of event where everyone saw everyone else, where news spread faster than wildfire, which made it perfect for what I had planned. I'd spent the 2 weeks since the parking lot confrontation very carefully. No more dramatic scenes, no more public arguments. I went to work, did my job, filed my paperwork, and waited. Let Beth and Alex think maybe I was cooling off, maybe I was ready to move on. I wasn't. Joan had been busy during those 2 weeks, doing what she did best, managing information. She'd put together a comprehensive file on Alex's business dealings, Beth's finances, and Maya's various indiscretions. Nothing illegal, just facts. Public records, mostly. The kind of information that was available to anyone who knew where to look and had the patience to look for it. Turned out Alex's real estate business wasn't doing as well as he pretended. He was behind on his office rent, had defaulted on 2 commercial loans, and was being sued by a client who claimed Alex had misrepresented a property. His fancy condo was mortgaged to the hilt, and his BMW payments were 3 months behind. Beth's salon was barely breaking even, and she owed back taxes to the state. The only reason she'd been able to keep it afloat was the monthly loans I'd been giving her. Loans that had stopped the day I kicked her out. And Maya? Maya had been skimming from the dental office where she worked as a receptionist, taking cash payments from patients and not recording them. Nothing major, but enough to get her fired if anyone bothered to look closely at the books. All of this information was perfectly legal to obtain and perfectly legal to share. Public records were public for a reason. The festival was being held in the town square, with booths and food trucks arranged around the central gazebo. There was a small stage set up for the various presentations, the mayor's speech, the high school band, local business awards. I arrived around noon, wearing my best shirt and a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Joan and Dave were with me, along with Pat Webb and her husband. We looked like a group of respectable citizens enjoying a community event, which we were. Sort of. Alex and Beth arrived about an hour later, with Maya trailing behind them like a faithful dog. They looked nervous, like they weren't sure they should be there. But this was a small town, and hiding at home would just make them look more guilty. I watched them from across the square, noting how people reacted to their presence. Some folks turned away, pretending not to see them. Others stared openly, whispering to their companions. A few people actually walked up to them, probably offering sympathy or asking for details. At 2 o'clock, Mayor Harrison took the stage to give out the annual business awards. Parrish & Sons Electric had won Small Business of the Year 3 times in the past decade, and we were nominated again this year. I wasn't expecting to win. The competition was tough, and frankly, the events of the past few weeks had probably hurt my reputation in some circles. But when Mayor Harrison called my name, the applause was loud and sustained. People were clapping not just for my business success, but for how I'd handled the situation with Beth and Alex. In a town this size, everyone knew the story, and most people seemed to think I'd taken the high road. I walked up to the stage, accepted the plaque, and stepped up to the microphone. "Thank you," I said, waiting for the applause to die down. This award means a lot to me, especially this year. It's been a challenging few months, both personally and professionally. I could see Beth and Alex in the crowd, looking uncomfortable. But challenges have a way of showing us who we really are, and who the people around us really are. They show us who we can count on and who we can't. More murmurs from the crowd. People were starting to realize this wasn't going to be a standard acceptance speech. I want to thank everyone who supported Parrish & Sons Electric over the years. My employees who work hard every day to serve this community. My customers who trust us with their homes and businesses. And my friends who've stood by me during difficult times. I paused, letting my eyes scan the crowd until they found Alex and Beth. I also want to thank some people who taught me valuable lessons recently. Lessons about trust and loyalty and the importance of choosing the right people to have in your life. Alex was shaking his head slightly, probably trying to signal me to stop. Beth looked like she wanted to disappear into the ground. See, I used to think that family was everything, that kin was thicker than water, and that the people closest to you would never betray you. But I learned that's not always true. Sometimes the people you trust most are the ones who hurt you the worst. The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. I learned that sometimes your own brother will steal from your business to finance an affair with your wife. I learned that sometimes the woman you've loved for 15 years will tell you that you are always her second choice. I learned that sometimes the people you think are your friends are just waiting for you to fail so they can pick up the pieces. I could see Maya's face turning red with anger. Beth was crying again, but quietly this time. But I also learned something else. I learned that this community is full of good people who believe in honesty and integrity. People who understand that actions have consequences. People who know the difference between right and wrong. The applause started again. Tentatively at first, then building to a roar. So thank you, all of you, for showing me what real loyalty looks like. Thank you for supporting a local business that tries to do right by its customers and employees. And thank you for reminding me that sometimes, when people show you who they really are, the best thing you can do is believe them. I held up the plaque. This award doesn't just belong to me. It belongs to everyone who believes that hard work and honesty still matter. Everyone who believes that when you make a commitment, you keep it. Everyone who understands that some things, like trust and integrity and keeping your word, are more important than getting what you want. The applause was deafening now. People were on their feet, cheering. I could see Alex pulling Beth toward the parking lot, Maya following behind them. As I walked off the stage, dozens of people came up to shake my hand, pat my back, tell me how proud they were of how I'd handled everything. I smiled and thanked them, but my eyes were on the parking lot, watching Alex's BMW pull out and drive away. Dave appeared at my elbow, grinning. "Boss, that was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Think they got the message?" "Oh, they got it. Everyone got it. You just made it crystal clear that this town has chosen sides and they chose you." Joan nodded approvingly. "Alex won't be able to do business here anymore." "Not after that. And Beth, good luck getting customers at the salon when everyone knows she's the woman who cheated on the local hero." "Local hero? That's what you are now, Jimmy. The guy who got stabbed in the back by his own family and handled it with class. The guy who didn't lose his temper, didn't get violent, just told the truth and let people make their own decisions." Pat Webb squeezed my shoulder. "That was risky, what you just did. But it was smart. You didn't accuse them of anything that wasn't true. You didn't threaten them. You just told your story in your own words and let the community judge for themselves." "And that it did judge," her husband added. "Did you see people's faces during your speech? You had them in the palm of your hand. As we walked back toward the festival booths, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. A sense of peace. Not happiness, exactly. The betrayal still hurt. The divorce was still going to be messy. And I was still going to have to figure out how to rebuild my life. But for the first time since that night in the kitchen, I felt like I was in control of my own story. And Alex, Beth, and Maya, they were about to learn that in a small town, reputation is everything. And theirs was now in ruins. 3 months after the festival speech, Alex's real estate office closed down. The final blow came when his largest client, Henderson Development, pulled out of a major deal after concerns about Mr. Parrish's professional conduct surfaced. Word was that Mrs. Henderson had been at the festival, had heard my speech, and had decided she didn't want to do business with a man who would cheat with his brother's wife. Beth's salon lasted another month before she had to shut it down. Turned out that when your clientele consists mostly of married women, having an affair doesn't exactly boost your customer base. Who knew? Maya got fired from the dental office after Dr. Peterson's wife, who had also been at the festival, suggested he might want to take a closer look at his books. The missing cash payments were discovered within a week. All 3 of them had left town by Christmas. Alex sold his condo at a loss and moved to Portland. Beth went back to live with her parents in Massachusetts. Maya found a job in Boston, far enough away that the gossip wouldn't follow her. I could have let it end there, should have let it end there. They were gone, I was free, and life was getting back to normal. But there was one more thing I wanted to do. On New Year's Eve, I threw a party. Not a big one, just close friends, employees, a few neighbors, the kind of party Beth had always wanted to host, but I'd never been enthusiastic about. Turned out I was pretty good at throwing parties when I wasn't worried about someone judging every detail. Around 11 o'clock, when everyone was well into their drinks and the conversation was flowing freely, Joan came up to me with a manila envelope. "What's this?" "Call it a New Year's gift, from me and Dave." I opened the envelope and found a stack of photographs. Security camera footage, printed out in high resolution. Alex and Beth in my office, Alex and Beth in the warehouse break room, Alex and Beth in the parking lot behind the building. But these weren't the grainy black and white images I'd seen before. These were clear, detailed, unmistakably them. Professional quality prints that left nothing to the imagination. "Where did you get these?" "Our security system is better than you thought," Dave said, appearing beside Joan with a beer in his hand. "High-definition cameras, color recording, the works. We just never mentioned it before." "We thought you might want them," Joan added. "You know, in case you ever needed proof of what they did. For the divorce proceedings or whatever." I stared at the photos. They were incriminating, explicit evidence of the affair. In court, they'd be worth their weight in gold. "Joan, the divorce was finalized 2 months ago." "I know, but we thought maybe you'd want to send copies to Alex and Beth, as a reminder." "A reminder of what?" "That their actions have consequences, that you have evidence of what they did, that even though they left town, you could still make their lives very uncomfortable if you wanted to." I looked at the photos again. There was Alex, the golden boy who'd always gotten everything he wanted, caught in the act of betraying his own brother. There was Beth, the woman who'd told me I was her second choice, proving just how little our marriage had meant to her. With these photos, I could destroy what was left of their reputations. I could send copies to their new employers, their new neighbors, their families. I could make sure that everywhere they went, people would know what they'd done. It was tempting. God, it was tempting. But as I stood there, surrounded by people who actually cared about me, people who'd stood by me through the worst period of my life, I realized something. I didn't need to destroy Alex and Beth. They'd already destroyed themselves. "You know what?" I said, walking over to the fireplace. "I think I'll pass." "Jimmy, what are you doing?" Joan asked as I tossed the photos into the flames. "I'm moving on. Alex and Beth are gone. They're out of my life, out of this town, and out of my future. Why would I want to waste any more time thinking about them?" Dave shook his head. "Boss, those photos could have given you power over them for years." "I don't want power over them, Dave. I want them to not exist in my world at all." I watched the photos curl and burn, the images of my ex-wife and brother disappearing into ash and smoke. "Besides," I added, "the best revenge isn't making them pay for what they did. The best revenge is building a life so good that what they did doesn't matter anymore." Joan smiled and raised her beer bottle. "To moving on. To moving on, everyone echoed. As midnight approached and the countdown began, I looked around the room at the faces of people who'd proven their loyalty, their friendship, their worth. Joan, who'd managed my business and my crisis with equal skill. Dave, who'd stood up for me when my own family wouldn't. Pat Webb, who'd guided me through the legal maze with wisdom and compassion. My neighbors, my employees, my real friends. These were the people who mattered. These were the people who'd shown me what real loyalty looked like. 10, 9, and 8. The countdown continued, and I found myself thinking about the future instead of the past. About the business I was building, the life I was creating, the possibilities that lay ahead. 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! As the clock struck midnight and everyone around me celebrated, I felt something I hadn't felt in over a year. I felt free. Free from the weight of betrayal. Free from the burden of revenge. Free from the need to prove anything to anyone. Alex and Beth had made their choices, and they'd have to live with the consequences. But I got to make my own choices now, and I chose to stop letting their actions define my life. I chose to stop being the man whose wife cheated on him with his brother. I chose to start being the man who built something better from the ashes of what they'd destroyed. And that, I realized, was the sweetest revenge of all. 6 months later, I was dating Sarah Mitchell, the new librarian who had moved to town from Vermont. She was smart, funny, honest, and when she looked at me, I could tell I was her first choice, not her second. A year after that, Parrish & Sons Electric landed the biggest contract in the company's history, wiring the new shopping complex on the outskirts of town. The same shopping complex that Alex's company had been supposed to develop before Henderson Development pulled out. Life, as it turned out, had a sense of irony. But the best part? The absolute best part was that none of it had anything to do with Alex or Beth. I didn't succeed because I'd gotten revenge on them. I succeeded because I'd stopped wasting energy on them and started focusing on building something worthwhile. They'd taught me a valuable lesson, though they'd never intended to. Sometimes the people you trust most will betray you. Sometimes the people you love most will break your heart. Sometimes your own family will stab you in the back. But when that happens, you have a choice. You can spend your life trying to get even, or you can spend it getting better. I chose better. And in the end, that choice made all the difference.